So I want to talk about microhouses. It's a semi-new fad that kind of turns things on its head a bit. Microhouses are small, typically studio-sized houses. They average between 100 square feet and 350 square feet, and they're gaining in popularity, especially with the new rich and independent sort of thinking type people. I find this movement to be incredibly strange and incredibly cool. Now, at first glance, one might think, what the hell are these people doing? And I do get that. Many people opting for these micro houses can easily afford full-size homes and, in some cases, even mansions, which makes the micro house movement seem a little cliche. I'm not the only one this occurred to, by the way. The rich choosing to give up luxury for these little micro homes was too much for critics to handle. Lines like attention-seeking get thrown around a lot and are used pretty liberally. Not to mention the incredibly narrow-minded argument that those people should be more grateful for what they have, as if choosing to downsize was the same thing as taking your hard-earned money for granted. In fact, it only proves the opposite, really. These microhomes are extremely affordable and energy efficient. To be honest though, I didn't think much of this whole movement at first either. I thought it may have been a fad, nothing more than something that people do if they have financial mobility and intends on keeping up their appearance. The idea that only the truly powerful have the luxury to give up power is a cliche, but actually I think that it's a cliche for a reason. I really thought about it for a minute and I realized something. Do you sometimes feel a little, burdened by the things you own? Think about the last time you moved. The last time I moved, I looked around the house and saw all these boxes here and I asked myself pretty frequently, why do I own all this stuff? Are you one of those people that have, these storage lockers you've been paying for years, but you haven't seen the stuff inside of it for about as long as you've owned the locker? I realized personally a while ago that I don't get a lot out of having a lot of stuff. Some people do, which I can understand. You want your home to feel like home. You want it to be familiar. When you look around and see your belongings, you want your things to represent you. The kind of lifestyle you live, the kind of choices you make in your day-to-day life. Your home should be more than just a house. It should be a representation of you. It should be a home. And looking around and seeing your stuff, the stuff that you've put in there, sometimes makes it feel more like home. But when I looked around, it made me feel like I was wasting my time and my money on things that I really didn't care about. Or at least I cared about them until I got them home and took them out of the package. That's what I think these micro homes help people with. You have what you need and not all the other crap that piles up over the years. Imagine how much more important that might be for people with means. They have so much more spending power, so they can buy more and more material objects that end up clogging up their life and their perspective on who they really are, instead of defining who they really are. These tiny little homes allow you to be more zen. You have to downsize so much. You can't distract yourself from the home buying network or objects that you just pick up at Walmart. Not to say that things can't go a little bit overboard in the other direction. You see, there is a high-end microhouse. You buy it already prefabricated and have it shipped to your house for assembly and installation, or you have it shipped to your property for assembly and installation. And these things are being marketed as little vacation homes, getaways, and that kind of thing, and they're going for $60,000 a piece. Yeah, that's right, $60,000. This micro house could be worth more than the property it's sitting on, and all it is a studio apartment, more or less. I used to be a professional handyman myself. I even own my own business, and looking at this thing, it became pretty apparent that I could probably build this exact same micro house for around $20,000 to $30,000, as opposed to the $60,000 it's being sold for. Then I realized it probably cost the manufacturers $20,000 to $30,000 to build it, maybe less, depending on if they had like an assembly line to pump them out. You know, honestly, that's the high end. I could probably build my own micro house for $15,000. Now, I say could pretty liberally. My wife might have a few things to say about that. But thinking about it, tinkering with it, I eventually came up with a micro house idea that I felt like sharing with you guys. Basically, it works like this. So you start with the micro house that you can live nicely in for maybe a year, maybe a little bit longer, maybe a little bit less. It could cost you as little as $8,000 to $10,000 to build a decent one. It won't have all the fancy stuff, but it will be a nice, fun little house to live in while you build another house. This could be your bathhouse. A nice full-size jacuzzi, a walk-in shower, and pretty much all the nice girly things that I really don't know very much about. A bidet. You could put a bidet in there if you wanted to. Then you build another little house, but this one could be outfitted for a small gym or maybe another bedroom. Then you build another house and another and another, and before you know it, you have a little village all to yourself. You can even build a tree house on this property if you wanted to, or use one of those already existing industrial houses or water towers that you can convert into a little living space. The whole point is that you did it cheaply and you had fun doing it. Now, two things might come to your mind when you are considering this. One, you're not a handyman. You don't know how to build things. You don't know how to build a micro house out of a shed. Well, this is a good time to learn. I feel that every high school student should have to work for Peace Corps or Habitat for Humanity for a semester. People should know how their houses work. Their lives depend on these things. They depend on these structures. You should have at least a basic working knowledge. And if you have that, then you can use it to grow and to build new things like micro houses, to increase your education and change your perspective on you know, how your home even works. And if you don't have that foundation, then you can hire people that do. You can tell them that you want to learn and that you want them to teach you while you're building your micro house. That might even give you a helping hands discount. Independent contractors and handymen will be happy to work with you with this kind of stuff. It would be fun for them. They'd probably take an interest in it. You'd have to hire plumbers and electricians to do, you know, major plumbing and major electrical work, hooking up to the power lines and stuff, but this is your own house that you're building and you can put as much or as little work into it as you like. The second problem you might have with these multiple little micro houses being one big house is the fact that you would have to walk outside to go from one room to another. For me, that really isn't a problem. I wouldn't have a big issue dealing with that. But for my wife, and probably most of you, that would get kind of old kind of fast. That's how I came up with the next idea. This is the basic floor plan from a downward point of view. The big circle in the middle is the kitchen and dining room. The other rooms are labeled accordingly. Well, here is another view for you guys. The lines connecting them all are underground tunnels. They wouldn't have to be super fancy or expensive, not really anything different from building basement, but this way you could go from one room to another without having to go outside the house altogether. You could basically avoid going out into the dark and cold whenever you wanted a midnight snack. These little halls could even have cabinets in them, extra storage space if you wanted. Now I know this might seem a little strange, but when I first saw these micro houses, I couldn't help play with the idea a bit. It really wouldn't be hard to build one, and I think it would be a satisfying experience, even a fun experience. You guys should think about it too, or at least draw up your own dream house floor plans. If you see this, leave a comment below or linking to your own video describing your own dream house, and I'll go and I'll comment on it, or at least comment below and talk a little bit about your dream house. Also, please like and subscribe this video, and I look forward to seeing if anybody out there is imaginative and thinks about these weird little things also. I'd love to hear about your ideas. All right.